Hey guys, Philosopher here, and today we're going to talk about sticking with the plan. This is actually a video I am doing based on popular request, and certainly if you have your own video ideas, you can put them in the comments below or go to my Discord, which is linked below. But essentially the question and the issue here is this. When do you stick with your original plan for your roster, whether it's for DD4 or Doom Raid or something else? And when do you deviate from it and change your plan based on new information, new characters, etc.? It's becoming really important now because we're getting new OP characters every month, right? First was Silver Surfer, then it was Kestrel, then it's Infinity Watch, and everything seems like it's changing all the time. So how do you keep up with that? Well, here's what I want to do. I want to take a step back for a minute. This game, Marvel Strike Force, I understand it's got, heroes, and there's a sense that it's about superheroes and all that, but it's really a resource management game. They deliberately give us too few resources, and they try to get you in a situation where you want to use your resources all the time to get different things in the game, and then you run short and you feel tempted to spend money. That's essentially what this game is trying to do. That's how they make money. And that is how the game has been able to become successful. The way you work against that is by having a plan, planning ahead, and managing your resources. Some people hate the idea of, quote, hoarding, but planning ahead and conserving resources is actually the way to keep your money in your own pocket, and also your way of ensuring that you can reach your goals. Even if you're free to play, if you end up just spending resources as soon as you get them, like it's got a burning a hole in your pocket, you end up in a situation where you can't do everything you want to do. So what do we do with this increased change that we've had in the game, right? How does that impact our plan? Well, first of all, here's one thing I would just say. Another trick that Scopely has to get more of our money and so forth is to control information. Essentially, Scopely has given us very little information about the future of this game. They make it so if you want to predict what's going to happen in the future, you've got to sort of read tea leaves or something, right? And so any bit of information we can get about the future helps us plan. So I think, certainly the right approach is to have a plan. And I talk about in my Path to Power video for new players, which I've linked below, and I encourage any new or mid-game player to read. The focus should be first on Dark Dimensions. It should be Dark Dimension 2, then Dark Dimension 3, then Dark Dimension 4, focusing on characters you can use on all of those game modes. Then, use the same character, so you reuse the gear. Dark Dimension 1 is really trivial. Once you get Ultron from Dark Dimension 2, you can throw him with any 7-star character. But then, obviously now, for players who've gotten through the DD 2, 3, 4 experience, it's all about focusing, for example, on building characters for Doom Raid. And we've talked about that in videos. Here's what I would say. What I want you to think about with resources is in this game. And when I say resources, I mean everything from gear, all right? So when you look at the gear I have, you see I have this gear stockpiled here. Ability mats, okay? Gold, anything you have here, these are resources. And if you deploy those resources, you'll never get them back. If I click this button, I will have a tier 15 Negasonic, but then I will never have those mats back again. And that value on Negasonic will start declining in value over time because these characters get worse over time due to power creep. So the way around this is to pursue a plan but keep your options open as much as possible so that you can always reevaluate your plan. And I'll give you an example. When I was one of the first people to enter Dark Dimension 4, and I was in a race with these other people. And there was a lot of debate and analysis that went into who were the first characters to bring in. And I will show you, first of all, who the first characters were that I brought in. Here is literally a screenshot I took at the time of my starting team. And it was all very carefully crafted. I knew I would need Scream and City, so this essentially kept my options open here. I wasn't using the 5th slot on a character that I wouldn't need in the future. At the time, Captain America I thought would be helpful to feed energy to Ghosts and to keep the team alive. Don't think he's really an important character to have there. But she was cheap on uniques. He was cheap on uniques, and I felt like Ghost would get me through quickly. Not necessarily the right choice, but I put a lot of time into it, and I did a whole spreadsheet analysis of whether or not I wanted to have whether I wanted to have Captain America versus Sabretooth, who was a much cheaper option, but not as good for my roster, figuring out how much time that would lose me and the race and so forth. But here's the thing. This is what my team looked like when it entered DD4. Okay, you know what it looked like 15 minutes before that? It looked like that. What I was doing was slowly bringing up these characters, little by little, paying attention to those gold spender milestones that max out at 2.7 million. I was never going above 2.7 million gold a day. And I was slowly bringing up characters that I felt confident I was going to bring in. Like, I had pretty much committed to Ghost. I had committed to Sinister. I committed to Scream. And I was just sort of bringing them up. No, and I already was using her in Scream and I think maybe it was U7 at that point anyway, U7.5. So this wasn't a waste in any event. So I was bringing them up slowly until I figured out my options. And that's really what I would encourage you to do. So, all those resources I had sitting around were not a waste. They were immediately able to be deployed when I needed them to get me where I needed to go. And I could constantly take advantage of additional information as it became available. And that was really, really valuable to me. Particularly, I kind of caught ground. I think I was the 8th person to enter, but I caught some ground up in Cosmic because my original plan, when you look at Cosmic characters, okay, my original plan at the time was to bring in, I brought in, I think, Thanos. My recollection was, it was Thanos, Proxima, and Minerva were 3 of the characters I brought in. I brought into Cosmic. Okay. However, my 4th character I was going to bring in was Cable because I had so many extra mutant uniques that I needed to find a way to use them. And I figured it would take me time to I was estimating how long it would take me to get the uniques for City and this and that. Well, what happened was I was all planning to do this, but then a new character came out, Longshot. He was also the same number of uniques, same cost. I immediately went into Longshot instead. Brought up, at the time, no one had brought up Gear 15 Longshot. There was almost no one had Gear 15 in the game at the time, and we were just starting the DD4 race. It enabled me to get through Cosmic quickly and ultimately catch up and get some ground in City. My only point is this is not just applicable to a race situation. This is applicable to you. I'm using this as an example. When you're in the Doom Raid and you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I get my teams so that I can contribute more? My alliance is trying to get to 30% or 60%. Don't throw all your ISO on a character. And I store ISO even now on characters that I don't really need. And I'm certainly doing that, for example, even right now on the for blue ISO that I'm getting in from the Doom Raid. What you want to do is, plan out what the most valuable characters are. And then as you get, wait till you get to a point where you can bring up a character to an entire tier. So I never equip gear generally pieces at a time unless there's just like one of these pieces is a purple gear piece. Otherwise, I just wait and I will only equip all on a full tier. I'll do the same thing for ISO. I usually only bring up ISO to level 3 or 5. I skip the 4, although here you may need it for those early nodes. The point is, if you take an approach that plans but also keeps your options open for as long as possible, you can have your cake and eat it too. Okay, that's how you plan in this game. That's how you always account for new information. And that's how you take a conservative approach to spending your resources so that you have more resources on hand and you feel compelled to push up against bottlenecks, potentially even spend money, which I don't necessarily recommend when you reach the end of those bottlenecks. All right, guys. If you have any questions, certainly put them below or put them in the Discord if you have any suggestions for other videos. If you like this video, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, check out our Discord. Of course, that's linked below, and our Twitch stream is also linked below as well.